Hello and welcome to Success in Science, spotlighting women across Africa. My name is Mariam and I'm joined by Mokwena and Ewura-Esi Manful, who have joined us here in the UK today and will be sharing some of their stories. I've been working with them for around a year now, so I'm really excited to have them here in the UK with me. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
It's so nice to see you guys in person.
All right.
And quick introductions for people that don't know you very well. Pinky, let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is Mokwena. I'm from South Africa. I am an environmental scientist and chemist. And yeah, I love all things life, I guess.
Nice. Ewura-Esi.
Hi, my name is Ewura-Esi Manful. I am from Ghana, but currently studying in South Africa, doing my master's in molecular biology. Yeah.
Nice. Very impressive young women. And let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing right now. So what are you working on, Pinky?
A couple of things. I'm one of those people that struggle with just doing one thing at a time. So I host a radio show. It's also a science communication thing, but I think my primary vocation is being an environmental scientist. I did a lot of water-related purification studies in these last couple of years. And actually, because of that, I commercialized my research. So I'm in the process of starting a business, which is hard, but it's going well.
Nice. Yeah. And Ewura-Esi.
Hi, so I'm currently doing my master's in molecular biology and my program is research-based. My research is focused on investigating new therapeutic strategies to help combat the diversifying problem of antibiotic resistance. Specifically on tuberculosis, I aim to study a particular gene which has been found when highly expressed in humans, seeks to have a potential role in killing mycobacteria. And what I aim to do is basically to employ transcriptomics and bioinformatics to study what exactly this gene is doing in aiding the killing of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Yeah.
Amazing. Very impressive young women, as I said. So let's go back. Let's take it right back. And can you guys tell me a story of when you realized that science was going to be important to you?
I can start.
Go for it.
I think for me, as probably a moment that dates way back. I didn't even know what science was when this moment came. I just saw and felt what I did. And I was like, I wonder what I can do with this. It started, so I grew up in the townships of South Africa. And well, a lot of people are not much of animal fans or anything in nature. They're not a fan of like mice or cats or whatever. We've spoken with Ewura-Esi and she's like, why do you notice every cat on the streets? And so for me, it started with that, the little things in terms of animals. Like I cared entirely for animals in a community that didn't. So already I was an anomaly. But growing up, it grew more into, hey, how does our water work? Why do we drink water in the way that we do? Why do we breathe the things that we breathe? Where does it come from? And I think it evolved as I could give language to what I didn't know was a thing at first. And I think in high school, one of my teachers, because I did really good in science modules, and so she's like, have you considered this? And I was like, I have no idea what that is, but sure, tell me more. And she told me more about it, and then applying and getting to connect with other people, I was like, this looks like my thing. Like it's finally the name for the thing that I've been feeling and experiencing all my life. So I'd say I was a child. I didn't know the language for it, but yeah, probably when I was very young.
Yeah. It's crazy how your teachers have such an impact on what you do later in life.
Yeah.
I can definitely say that for myself.
Yeah.
Ewura-Esi?
Yeah, for me, I think I see science as important in every aspect of our lives as humans because we take drugs when we are sick and it's all about science. We drink potable water, eat healthy food. And let me not take you far. Just recently when the world was hit with this unprecedented coronavirus, imagine what would have happened or how the world will be by now if there is no science. You know, it takes like approximately 10 to 15 years for a vaccine to be developed, but within just a couple of months, we had vaccine. So it tells us that science is important every day, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think COVID-19 was a real hit to the system.
Sure.
It was like, we were so dependent, we were waiting for a vaccine. And if it didn't come, we wouldn't be sitting across from the sofa.
Exactly.
So, what about for your countries in particular, so South Africa and Ghana, why is science important in those countries?
Mm.
Thank you.
For me, I think antimicrobial resistance and infectious diseases as a whole is taking a heavy toll on the country's the economy, and even in Africa as a whole. Even on the global level, because antimicrobial is a global crisis spreading faster than ever before. And molecular biology plays a critical role in understanding the functions and structures, all of which efficiently help us to develop new drugs, which is very paramount in curing diseases. Yeah.
I love that. I think for me, it's consistently that thing of it gives a name to things that we know, right? It gives a name that helps us, as Ewura-Esi said, figure out ways to cure disease, figure out ways to purify our waters, figure out ways to not be contaminating our air, ways to literally connects the entire ecosystem together. And I think it is in naming that we recognize what can be done to solve problems. So particularly in South Africa, we've had a lot of water purification issues, like wastewater wasn't being purified as well as it should. And it affected communities. Like there was typhoid fever that broke out not long ago, a couple of months ago. And so I think more and more people are being brought to the front lines of why it matters to have people that are sitting down and studying the contaminants or the pollutants in water and figuring out new ways to clean them. And so with my studies, especially, I just recently completed a master's as well. It was particularly on newer, novel pollutants so our systems are built to clean or purify certain pollutants, but what about the new ones that are released on account of our developmental strategies? It's great to focus on the SDG goals, but what impacts do they have on the environment, on what we eat, how we breathe and the works? And so I think science helps us give names to those things, and in naming, we are able to recognize what solutions can be implemented.
I guess science is just problem solving in that way. So there's endless problems and endless solutions.
And it makes life very comfortable for us. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And to know that we can go away and think about solutions and work together. It's very collaborative as well, which we'll talk about later.
Yes.
Let's talk about the not so pretty sides and some struggles that we may have faced. Tell me a time where you thought, okay, maybe science, as much as I love it, maybe it's going to be too difficult, too challenging.
Sure. There's been many.
Well, I would say the challenge of knowing whether this is the right path for me to take and whether I'm capable enough to take this path. And how I overcame that was with opportunities. You look for opportunities, go for workshops, seminars, listen to women who are currently doing so well in science. And you hear from them, you are like, yeah, I can do so. I can do it. I can also get to where they are now. And I remember one striking moment was when I was in second year. So I was granted the opportunity to do my internship at the West African Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens. And it was sponsored by the African Research Academies for Women. So the African Research Academies for Women in Ghana seeks to empower women in science. They give us opportunities to intern at research institutions, carry out a research, and at the end, present your research findings to the board of directors. And the exposure that I had prepared me adequately and sparked my interest, knowing that science is a problem-solving platform, and it helps you troubleshoot and come up with solutions to combat various issues that we have in the world. Yeah.
I think questioning your capability is definitely something that all of us might suffer from. Maybe we'll talk about imposter syndrome and things later. But go on, Pinky, as well.
Yeah, I think I can definitely resonate with what Ewura-Esi shared. But for me, especially, I think the struggles have existed in every season and life stage. From a scientific point of view, I come from a rural area in South Africa, and so even service delivery and material and workshops, we didn't know those things existed until I was in uni. And so I remember being in high school, and some of the teachers, our maths teacher was a man who was big and burly, and he would always say women should not be in science because you guys fall pregnant and have babies and abandon the work. And so there was initially, I think that was the first struggle that I encountered personally, and I was like, what? But my other teacher, my physical science teacher, said I should do this, and she's a woman. And so already it started first with the gender disparities in science in school, how he would invest a lot in the boys, the boy mathematicians, and with us he's just the common things, it's not worth it. And then moving to university again was imposter syndrome, but also I think Ewura-Esi is lucky in that there were workshops and things like that. For us, it was, man, suffering in solidarity. Me and my classmates being like, you know what, we really believe we have to do this, and we actually enjoy this. This is not just we have to do this, we're enjoying this. And so just banding up with other women and saying, we're going to do this, it doesn't matter what they say, was another thing. And I think in postgrad, I learned the isolation now, because it's not like you're not doing this with anyone. It's you and your supervisor.
Yeah.
And sometimes when your supervisor is male, they don't necessarily understand what challenges you go through as a female. And so I found that particularly difficult. With certain things that I can't even verbalize. I don't have words for this because it's so new for me as well. Yeah, I think I've struggled with that. I've struggled also with people not taking me seriously because I'm a female and African. People assuming you don't know what you're talking about because your English accent is not what's familiar to them. And so there's been quite a lot with journeying in that way for me that is very nuanced. I think the bigger struggles as a world, we've tried to combat them, and we're like, yeah, we're doing well in the big things. But on a more nuanced level, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, again, community is what has helped me. Always having people that I can be like, I'm struggling. I can ugly girl cry with friends or other women that are in science has been helpful.
Well, Pinky, I must say that these workshops were not there. You have to go look for them. You have to look for opportunities. You have to look for doors yourself. So they weren't so there that I had to just enter any place just to go and meet women who are doing so well in science. I had, out of curiosity, I look for opportunities online, and I get such exposures, just like I'm sitting here just now. Yeah.
A lot of the interventions and the workshops and the help, they're hidden. It's like they don't want us to find them.
Yeah.
And it's weird because why would they have them if they don't want us to find them? But I think that's half the battle. It's like, well, there's help available, there's workshops available, and sometimes there's help that you didn't even know existed. So it might be like one lecturer that really wants to help you out, but it's chasing. It's almost exhausting chasing those opportunities and chasing those interventions. So I think that's half the battle.
Yes.
And those nuanced struggles you're talking about, they're harder to tackle because they're hard to explain. They're hard to get people to validate them too. Especially if they haven't experienced them themselves. So yeah, I don't know what it is that we can do about these nuanced, these more detailed struggles. I wonder what you guys have to say about what can be done to mitigate these things.
That's a very interesting question.
Yeah, very interesting.
I think the thing that I used to do and I continue to do is if I come across a challenge in the moment that it's coming to me, I'm reading about it. If other people have experienced it, great, then I don't have to reinvent the wheel in solving it. But if it's not been, then communicating with whoever I'm in a group with, saying, hey, have you guys seen this as well? Because sometimes it's not even a challenge, it's just me and my filters. So it's always great to be like, hey, like, are you seeing the same thing? And if we are, what can we do to fix it? In the moments that it's happening, instead of waiting until like it's become this big thing that now we can't solve. So that's what I normally do.
For me, overcoming such challenges, if it's not something I can control, I just leave it as it is until, I don't know, maybe something happens. But I kind of shift my attention to, or my energy to something that I can control. And out of it, probably something will come out of it,
Yeah, the controllables versus the non-controllables, that's a huge thing. Sure. What's like maybe a few of the main things that you control in your daily life that's like, this is where I take control over my day and how my life is going to go?
For me, I think my life, I dictate my day. I don't let situations or people dictate my day for me. And yeah, my life is what I can control. So I get to do things that are at my fingertips. Like if I need to learn a new skill, someone will say YouTube is another university on its own. So if you need to learn something, just go on YouTube, Google, learn, and Yeah,
absolutely.
So good. I think, for me, it's also, I guess, the learning, but also the attitude reframing consistently. If there are things that are like nicking me off, I'm like, okay, I need to think about this well. I think not only because it's become popular, but because it's so necessary, this idea of mental health being at the forefront. Like, how's my mental health being affected by whatever's happening? And if I feel in the moments that it's happening, it's too much, I disengage as well for a little bit, because I love going back to the problems. I really do. I'm just like, there's something here. Let's think about it. But in the moments that I can't engage with them, I will disengage for a bit and then come back to it later. And yeah.
Okay. I think something that I struggle with is trying to be an activist at the same time that you're a scientist.
And Mariam.
It's true, right? It's trying to be a person in the industry and then advocating for the industry and advocating for your brothers and sisters and advocating for this. And that's like, it should be its own profession.
Yes.
Which is why I'm now studying diversity and inclusion and stuff like that on its own. But being a scientist and being an advocate for the cause, what's the hardest thing about that? And as you're saying, sometimes you want to engage, sometimes you want to disengage. Like, is it important to you to stay engaged, or do you sometimes wish you could throw it in the bin and just focus on what you need to do? Yeah. Why is it important? Why do you still go back and go back?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a hard one. Yeah, I think for me, first things first, and I've had to learn this. There's this model, the Eisenhower matrix. Someone taught it to me this year, and it changed my life. It's this idea of having in a quadrant things that are important and urgent versus not important, not urgent. Yeah. And so there are things that I'm like, man, I feel like somebody else is more qualified or more positioned, strategically positioned to tackle this particular activism. And then there are things that I'm like, okay, like, it's me. I have to be that person. And so I think this matrix has helped me a lot in doing the things that I must do. At the end of the day, I'm still accountable to my work. I'm still accountable to my supervisors and still putting in the effort. So I think in undergrad, I did the mistake of being too much of an activist and less of an academic or a scientist. And I think I've seen how both suffer if I do that. So it starts off with being informed and being the scientist, because that should inform the activism. So yeah, I think they flow from each other.
Yeah, I think for me, sometimes learning from people's experiences helps a lot, because being an advocate for science and doing science, just as you said, two different, So just learning from people who have been there before, hearing from their experiences, their struggles, and how they overcame such struggles, in a way help you to be able to juggle between the two.
Yeah, as you say, like when you stretch yourself too far, both of those things struggle. Your science will suffer and the activism will suffer, because you're so exhausted that you're not doing a good job of it. But I find it really interesting what you're saying about who's more well positioned, because you could like fight every cause under the sun if you really wanted to, but is that your battle to fight? And how powerful can you be in that argument anyway? So I really like that answer. And why, let's talk about why then is it so important to you? Like, why do you feel accountable for raising awareness of African women, black women in science? Why is it important?
For me, I think in Ghana, people have this notion that science is for the smart. Science is not for girls. Science is for boys. Science is so difficult. But I think that there is no difficult subjects on this head. It depends on you as an individual, and I believe anybody at all can do science. It's just you knowing that this is where you're going. I need to stay focused, work hard, and get there. Because if people are doing so well, why can't I do same? And I think those of us that we are already in the system can maybe create content like how a typical day of a scientist look like, life outside science, life inside science, how to even study science as a subject, and the likes. And I believe in doing so, we sort of encourage people more or attract people to science.
So good.
I
think this idea that like science often informs innovation, for me, is what makes it very important. What did they say? Necessity is the mother of all invention. I think we've come to a place where globally we know what is necessary, what we need. We know the gaps. We've seen them, but a lot of us are like, we don't know. We don't know how to engage. Like, how do we solve this? And I think a lot of the solutions are in the pages, in the papers, in the maths, in the, in the labs. And so I think bringing back the, I don't know, championing of this idea that, hey, actually the solutions do exist. It's about really just following the rabbit holes until the end. And so what Ewura-Esi said as well about learning, when you notice that there's something that you lack, go read about it. You don't even have to tell others if it's embarrassing that you don't know what a certain thing is. But yeah, and so I think reminding each other again that there is no such thing as like this is for the genius and not. And I really think as a global society we have to redefine what genius means. It's not just the scientist. An artist could be genius in what they do, but that's a story for another day. I think my other answer that I wanted to say was, personally, I grew up in a society where scientists were big white men. And so I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, I love it. You guys have done a lot of work and you've made this collaborative in a way that we can join the conversation. But I think there's a lot of things that women bring to the table in particular, especially Black women, because, you know, we're the ones that know a lot about not just domestic life, but the loopholes in living, the loopholes in raising children, in everything, name a subject, and we know something about it. And so being invited to the scientific table, I think it would add an authenticity, a goodness to the science that would otherwise not exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if science is the subject of problem solving, and there's a lot of problems that haven't been solved, then we need as many people to bring their ideas to the table and bring a diverse range of ideas to this table. A lot of the problems that we're having are in the global south, affect the global south, and so we need faces and people from those areas to contribute to the problem solving. And yeah, it's not just women, but Black women, African women have so much to offer, I agree. And yeah, what you say about the big white men sitting on this table.
It was hard saying that in the UK.
You're right, they have done a lot of work, and they started the ball, right? They got it rolling, and they've created science, which is a collaborative subject. I think that we have every right to be involved, to sit on the table with, and yeah, it's great to see. Ewura-Esi, you were talking about role models and people that you can see on YouTube, videos that you can watch of women that are doing great things. Do you think that we have enough role models as it is today?
Well, currently, I would say the numbers are gradually increasing thanks to women in science organizations like Empowering Female Minds in STEM in Ghana, Women in Supramolecular Chemistry here in the UK, the African Research Academies for Women in Ghana as well, and I think last one, Women in Academia Support Network, which is an international community for women who are currently in academia. But I also believe that ambassadors like myself and Pinky can do better, create content for girls out there. How do I apply for college? What course do I choose? What informs my choice of course? The process in applying for graduate school, and yeah, I think indirectly in doing so we are sort of like guiding and serving as mentors or role models to these young ones out there. So in summary, I would say, yeah, even though the numbers are gradually increasing, but I think we can do better.
Absolutely,
so good.
Thank you.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. Can I just agree?
I think the role models that I can point at now, from when I was like maybe 15 or 16, way more. So the numbers are increasing, definitely. I think some of the things that were harder when I was younger is exactly the questions you're saying. How do I apply for uni? What's the right one? Like, what's the right course? And it was so hard to see. The information was there, but not by people that looked like me, and that was the hardest thing. So that's what I wanted to ask you guys next, is about role models that look like you, and why is it important that they represent you as a person, and it's not just a British woman telling you about how to go to college and things like that.
So good. I think at the top of my head is that solidarity. Sometimes when it's somebody that doesn't look like me, sound like me, come from the same background as me, I could easily say, yeah, it's for people like her. Like it's for them. It's not for me. And so seeing somebody that's like me, it almost challenges me to be like, oh, okay, I have no excuse. Like if that was my excuse, it can't be anymore. And so I've seen the value of that. I've seen the value of being able to call up a friend or a mentor when I'm stuck. Like it makes a massive difference, because sometimes when you're stuck in your lab work or whatever, it can feel personal. It can feel like, oh, it's me, I'm incompetent, great. So being able to call someone and say, I'm stuck, and they're like, oh no, common, don't worry about it. This is how you move. It's life-changing. I think it even restores the dignity of the person that I'm enough, like I belong here.
Yeah. I think I agree with Pinky. Looking up to people that come from the same setting or environment or background is really important, because you can easily relate with their experiences, you know, different from maybe a white woman, because we have different experiences growing up as a black woman or a white person. So yeah, just having somebody to look up there with who shares the same topography or background experiences, just like me, you're able to relate and learn from such person.
Yeah, 100%. I think you have the same struggles, you have the same views of the world, you feel the same in different spaces. So I think, I agree. It's so important that everyone has someone that looks like them. And I think it's part of our job, unfortunately, it's part of our job, because as we say, like, the number of role models is increasing, but in my personal view, it's not enough yet. And for example, here in the UK, there's, I think, one black professor of chemistry in the whole of it, and he's male. So there's not, I think one thing is how high your role model is. Like, for example, we're in like postgraduate level, but people who maybe have changed the industry, like those kinds of people, there's not that many of them yet. And I think that's the hard thing. You want to have someone to look at, like, they're a pioneer in the industry and they look exactly like me, and I can do the same thing. But I think at the moment we're more like postgraduate level, PIs, and it's getting bigger and bigger on that scale. And I think one thing we can do is be role models of doing the journey, at least how we're going about the journey, which is really exciting. And one day we'll be the pioneers that people are looking at, which is cool. Let's talk more about what you're even doing here in the UK. What have you guys been up to? I know it's been chaotic, it's been busy, but how are you finding it?
I think so far it's been good. We've had the opportunity to explore around. We've been in the labs. We did NMR with Dom and Kira.
It really has been great. I think the weather for me was a serious shock. Like, my body is still like, what is going on? Because we came from hardcore summer. And that has been really interesting. It's probably contributed to why I thought it was a chaotic experience these last couple of days.
Absolutely.
But in addition to being in the lab and journaling and chronicling our journeys, we've got to do some touristy stuff. We went to London yesterday, which was amazing. We enjoyed it in the rain. I think I'm like finally acclimatizing to the weather. I'm like, this is what we have. Let's make the most of it. Meeting new people has also been fun. Just, being in the lab and seeing, actually, science is so uniform. It's not even funny. Like, you think, because I'm in Africa, like when I go to the UK, the science will look different. But you walk into the lab and you know exactly what to do where. So that's quite encouraging.
I love that. That's really positive. The climate, listen, I don't know what to say about the rain. It's not going to go away. It's also November. This is almost like the best November we've ever had as well. We're like, wow. I'm wearing my short sleeve. But very soon, after you acclimatise, we're going off to Ghana, which is exciting, your home country. So I wanted to talk about this boot camp that we're going to, and why you think it's a good idea for us to go, and what might the value of boot camps and workshops like that be to African women in science, and is it a good thing that we're going?
I think it's going to be a central place for resources, human resources, female scientists that are probably in the same struggles, same goals, and so it'll feel like, well, as I imagine it, I'm like, it feels like we're going to this place of treasure, and each of us are going to leave that place carrying treasure that we take to wherever we're from. So decentralizing the privilege, decentralizing the opportunity, But the best way to do it is to start off together, make sure we're on the same page, and then go out. So I'm particularly excited. I've loved Ghana for years. I was telling Ewura-Esi, what a miracle that we are going to Ghana. Some of my favorite authors are from Ghana, and so I have a very high regard for Ghana, for Ghanaian women and scientists. So I feel like I'm fangirling Ghana, low key, but it's fine.
I'm very excited.
For me, I'm excited. I'm very much excited because I finally get to go home again. And yeah, I believe boot camps and workshops like this are actually platforms that exposed me early on. So this is another opportunity to learn from other people and network people, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, human resources, as you say, is like the most valuable thing. Like, how many times when you were younger did you meet that one girl that really inspired, that one woman that really inspired you, and it sticks with you for life? I think this, in the same way that horrible experiences stick with you, so do those like really positive core memories do. And it's important to refill those memories and reteach your brain with positive experiences of science, I think. So I hope that is what we experience in Ghana, and I'm sure it will be. I'm very, very excited. And I think we're having women from all across the world. Oh,
that's very, very crazy.
Exciting. And you went to that university at some point. You did your internship there.
Yeah, so after my bachelor's degree, in Ghana, when you're done with bachelor's degree, so different in South Africa, where after bachelor's degree you have to do an honors, but in Ghana after bachelor's degree you have to do something called national service, so you serve the nation for a year. And I happened to work as a research assistant at where we are going to have the boot camp in Ghana. Yeah,
very exciting. So you'll know your way around already.
Yes, they'll show us around.
Yeah, very excited. So take me back to maybe one of these core memories, these positive core memories then of, can you tell me like a workshop you've been to before? I think Ewura-Esi, you've experienced some of these more than Pinky maybe, but what did you gain from that? What's a memory, a technique, a skill? Do you think it's like more for community or is it more for physical skills? Like I know there's going to be workshops about coding and fun stuff like that. So is it more like technical stuff that you take away or is it more that building community?
So I wouldn't say more of technical. Yes, the technical was important because the sole aim of getting into that internship was to carry out a research and present your research findings to the board of directors. But aside that, we get to serve the community. We went around educating people on the need for education, girl child education specifically. And also, aside that, you get to meet other students and learn from their experiences and hear from women who are currently doing so well. Because we had mentors, we're privileged to have mentors who are doing so well in science, and you get to hear from their experiences and learn from them. And yeah. And one major thing that struck me was the laboratory experiences I had, because I was in second year, so I was like new in the uni system, but the things I learned were hands-on experience. I get to relate more with the theoretical aspects that I've already learned in school. Yeah.
So good. So good. I have not really attended a lot of workshops in the scientific space, probably in the broader sense of from communication to work to business and entrepreneurship. And I think definitely that idea of combining or reconciling the theoretic with the practical is a big thing. And it's always great when you have people, community that you can network with that are outside of your immediate circles. Because sometimes I feel like our people love us so much, they can't tell us the truth. And so having somebody that's like, yeah, no, that's not true, is always great for me. I like that. I love feedback. And so getting feedback that's diverse, that can contribute to my work in ways that the typical feedback wouldn't. I love that. But yeah, I think.
And what do you think is the value of real critical feedback over, as you say, like, your supervisors that love you or can sometimes be quite harsh, and your friends being like, that's great, that's amazing. What's the value of someone looking at you and be like, that's actually, I don't like that?
Yeah, I think it increases the quality of your work by yards. I mean, I think my supervisor was mean. Not mean, Shane, he was great, but the ways that he would give me feedback, I'd be like, but how could you? And then in hindsight, I'm like, that was so helpful. Because for people like me who are, I'm Enneagram 7, enthusiastic, visionary, I touch everything, I want to go everywhere. It's always nice to be like, come back to the center, let's do this. And I think he was that. That's why I found him mean, because I'm like, I want to do everything. And he's like, no, do this first, finish this first. And so I think the critical feedback helps in that way. It keeps us not only accountable, but it challenges us to do better.
Yeah.
When you know that your work is going to be presented to people that are not going to buy face, like you are forced to want to make it exceptional.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the exceptionality of it that you can even make large scale it to globally, and be proud of the work that you present to the world, I guess.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree with Pinky on that too.
Yeah,
Sure.
in terms of it just increases the quality of what you're doing 100%.
Yeah, of course, you don't expect every journey to be smooth. At times you cry and laugh, you fall, you get up.
Yeah.
And yeah, you learn from the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely hardens your skin as well,
It
getting
does.
that critical
Yeah.
feedback. And you can turn around and be proud of it in the end.
Yeah.
Like, actually, it's not just me that thinks this is great.
Yeah.
Other people agree with me.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you had maybe a harsh but supportive supervisor.
Yeah, no, he's
Can
the
we-
best. He's
Yeah.
the best.
I love that. Can we talk about what makes a good mentor? What qualities?
Qualities of a good mentor.
I think for me, I'll just dive right into it because the first word came to me, humanity. When people are human, I think it enables them to empathize. I learn better from people that are human. Sometimes you don't even have to spell out the work for me because you are, you see me as a human being, you relate with me as a human being. It makes me want to please you. It makes, like, as opposed to the harsh ones. I struggle. Like with the harsh ones, I'm always just like, eggshells everywhere. So I think that humanity, like, just, we have this saying in South Africa called Ubuntu. It's a saying that has gone across the ages, the generations. We love it, we live by it. But it's this idea of, I am because you are. So I'm human, therefore nothing human is alien to me. And so are you. And so even with supervisors, because I'm like, I know that one won't be a mentor unless if they're professionally like an expert at what they do. That's like the basics. We know you have to be an expert. We know you have to have informed this particular field. But like something that we often forget is these skills that are not physical, that are not that are not on paper. And I think humanity is one of those that, like, for me, takes a regular professor to like Super Saiyan professor when they're able to be human and guide me through that. Because I think what we're trying to build is not just functional scientists. We're trying to build holistic people that are great at what they do. Like, it's not just, I'm not Pinky a scientist, I'm Pinky among every other thing that I am. And so if the supervisor can cover that entire range, which is humanity ultimately, but for me, I'm just like, you're the one.
Yeah, because we're people as well. And I think part of like your graduate education is not just learning the science, it's like becoming a socialite, it's becoming independent, it's becoming confident, it's overcoming all your personal fears and worries and getting good at science at the same time. And when that mentor doesn't appreciate you as a whole person, it's not, for me, like, my heart's not in it then. If they don't see you as a person, they just see you as a machine to do XY experiment that they want you to do and learn XY syllabus. So yeah, I totally agree. What about you?
I totally agree too, because humanity before position in terms of mentorship is very important, because I want to be able to relate with you. I want to be able to talk to you anytime when I'm down, or because you're supposed to guide me, you know. But if because of your position or because of your title, that kind of bridge is not, that kind of gap is not broken, then I don't think we'll be able to have a good relationship as a mentor and a mentee. So it's very important, like putting humanity before position is very important during mentorship.
And it makes you realize how doable these things are, because when you think about the person that invented, like, I don't know, the COVID vaccine, you think, I could never, that's not even close to something I could do, and then you meet them and it's just someone called Sophia that plays tennis on the weekend, and you think, oh, like, that's actually a realistic goal to have and something that is actually achievable, and I think that's really important.
Very important.
So we've talked about role models and mentors. I know you guys talked briefly to some of your mentors currently, and we were going to showcase them a bit, but what if we just talk about them, if we talk about some of your mentors that you went to speak to over the week and showcase some of their talent?
Yeah, I think they're quite a diverse range for me, both men and women. And so I love this idea of, like I said, the positioning of a person informs how they can speak into my life. So on a personal level, like I call her my sister because she's so awesome. She's also completing a PhD in languages in South Africa. She's basically rewriting the code for languages, and I think it's so amazing. So for me, she's like a life mentor more than anything. She will reject this if I say it because she's like, no, we're friends. And then I think in the scientific space, I'd say, Sentia Sibia, who recently got a PhD like last week. I think she guided me a lot during my master's. She was holding my hand through it all, staying with me past midnight. We would come on weekends, and she's a mom, a wife, like in between everything that she had to do. I think it brought in that human element as well, that man, like she's such a brilliant scientist, but she'll still make time for you because of her humanity. She's human. And I was thinking about the other one that I completely... Oh, I have a life coach as well. I decided recently because I got stuck a lot more than I did in the past, I think, this season of my life. And so she's more on the entrepreneurial side. She helps with business, thinking like an entrepreneur. I'm a scientist. I don't do that. So it was very rusty, and it's very helpful to have somebody that asks the right questions and says, hey, like, consider this, consider that. Her name is Zelda, and she has a company called Treasured Me. She's amazing. And yeah, other people are just radio co-hosts and colleagues. I think there's always that, like, in as much as the mentors are above us, I believe also in, like, we're equals, like where I'm teaching you something as you learn, as I learn from you. So colleagues and other people and books, and I'm that person.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny how sometimes you pick up role models by accident.
Yes.
Like, it's rare when you, right? It's rare when you actually go out of your way to find a role model. So it's like, it's kind of, I feel like our brains are wired to find people to copy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why representation is so important.
Yeah.
So we find those people and we have those people to hand. We're like, oh, perfect, I'm going to copy that. When I think about myself, it's people that are related to me, cousins, mum. My mum is like my biggest life role model. Colleagues that I met, by accident. It's not people that I went and out of my way to find. Sometimes we go and find a life coach or something more specific, which is great at the same time. But it's interesting how you say you have role models for different parts of your life. Yeah, that's like maybe your mum might be your life coach, but she's not a businesswoman. She couldn't tell you much about. Yeah, oh gosh. She might not be a scientist. She couldn't inform that part of your life. So yeah, it's really interesting. Ewura-Esi?
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't go for my mom, my elder sister, and yeah, people that I look up to that they don't even know me. And way back in WACBIB, I met two women who are currently doing so well. So Dr. Teresa Manful, she happens to have my surname coincidentally, and Dr. Lydia Mosi, and in Noguchi too. There are other people that I look up to. Prof. Dorothy Yeboah, who is currently the chair for Noguchi. And yeah, other people that I look up to who are not even in science. Like I look up to Oprah a lot. I look up to Michelle Obama. And yeah, other men like Dr. Abiola, Jim Rohn. Yeah, a lot of my list. Endless.
Go on and on.
Yeah, I just look up to people that I believe I can learn things from.
Yeah. Sure. Do you feel like they fill a gap in your knowledge?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I do think it's a symbiotic relationship as well. Like, I like to think that a lot of people who I look up to sometimes can learn from me at the same time in that growing period, which is nice. And how does it feel to know that you guys are role models for so many young women going into science? Like, we could talk about your role models forever, but people watching this who are younger than you or newer to science than you are going to see you guys and see themselves in you. How does that feel, and is that important to you?
I never thought of that before until this moment. And I think it's that thing again, like when we go into things, we're not thinking about what could be rewarding or like, yeah, man, this is going to gain me followers, or if it's just what you love to do, what you're curious about, what you're competent to do. And so it's quite humbling to hear that there might be people who are looking at my journey and they're like, oh, like I like that. I'm going to look up to you. What Ewura-Esi was saying about her people, I'm like, somebody said that about me. Oh, the pressure. But yeah, it also makes me want to lead myself well, lead my life well, be accountable. Remember, it's like this is something bigger than you. It's humbling and pressure-inducing at the same time, but I think it's so necessary. It's probably one of those things that keep you up, keep you going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's humbling as well and exciting because we sit here and people get to hear from our experiences, our struggles, and how we went through all those things, and they get to learn from us and in a way not maybe make the journey smooth for them, but at least they are well informed.
Yeah. Or just to let them know that it's fine not to have a smooth journey. There is going to be a calm at the end of each storm, and I think that's so empowering, and I'm really glad that you guys are here to be role models to our young generation. And for people that may be looking up to you, what do you hope to instill in them, if you could give them a message?
So I think for me it's all about self-development. You know, everything boils down to you as a person. You can get all the knowledge in the world, but if you as a person, you don't have a good attitude towards it, I don't know where you're going. So it boils down to you, work so hard, know why you're doing what you're doing, where you're going, stay focused, and know that the going is going to get tough, but you'll pull through no matter what.
Love it. Since Ewura-Esi has given the technical insights to the journey, I'll say the personal ones, be your authentic self. A scientist is not one thing. If you're creative and you dress like Kira, who dresses like a hippie, she's gorgeous, and that's what a scientist for you looks like. And so I think being our authentic selves is what also helps with imposter syndrome. When you walk into a room and you feel like, man, I'm not worthy to be here. You are. You are there, therefore you are. And so just because you don't look or sound or come from the same backgrounds, or I don't know, look like Pinky or do the things that Pinky does, doesn't mean you're not worthy to be where you are. You are. And so, being your authentic self, you are enough. Like, those are some of the words, because I think I needed that. I knew I was competent. I could do the work. Get me in the lab, I'll do it. But my own brain always stopped me from doing it because I didn't think I was worthy of it. And so, that's my word.
I think you've both highlighted two main things, like you questioning your capacity and your competence, which I've struggled with a lot, and questioning your worth then of the achievement, of your spotlight, of the place that you might have gotten yourself. And they're really, really hard to combat. The other thing I wanted to say about role models is that, as you highlight, it's not for you to copy them, because you should be yourself, but to take inspiration from them and take that as inspiration to be yourself, and take that as like a green card to say you can be yourself and it's going to be fine, and that is enough to achieve what it is that you want to do. We didn't touch a lot on imposter syndrome, but you just covered a lot of it there, that being in rooms that you don't feel like you belong in. But as you say, if you are in a room, it means that you belong there. And I'd like to remind that to anyone watching. Is that if you get into a room, it's probably because you deserve to be there. And that you are worthy to be there. So, thank you so much for your advice. And I'd like to wrap up with talking about some of your goals and like aspirations for the future, so people can watch this space.
That's so exciting. That's very exciting. I'm currently in the middle of writing a PhD proposal. I think it's necessary to go the whole way. And for me, I would love to lecture in South Africa. Like, no jokes there. I want to meet the young students, the young females, talk to them from that level, so that when they get to my level, they're fine. Of course, work on my business and keep being there for my family and loved ones. I think that's also very important. I'm human.
For me, I hope to become a physician scientist, because I believe the gap between research and medicine needs to be bridged. So getting that opportunity where you get to do medicine and do PhD at the same time, do research at the same time, because that gap, we need to translate the science. It's very important. So that is what I hope to achieve in the next.
So good.
That's a very important gap to point out, actually, because medicine was always evolving. It doesn't make sense for the medical profession to be separate to research.
Sure.
They are naturally at one, as well as the rest of the research community is always evolving. It's really exciting that you want to pursue a PhD. Is it what is it that you want to do it in?
I can't say it. I'm kidding. Chemistry. Chemistry. I'm joking. Chemistry. Hopefully at Kent. I'm actually talking to Prof. Jennifer Hiscock.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I'm just like, wow.
She's very cool.
So yeah, in chemistry.
No, nice. And do you think when you finish your masters, what do you think about PhD?
Yeah, so to be a physician or scientist, you need to go through MD, PhD. So it's a dual degree.
Yeah.
You get to do medicine and do research at the same time. So at the end,
yeah.
That's great.
And you'll be bridging exactly the gap that you hope to close.
So
very
good.
exciting. So yeah, I hope people keep their eye on you guys, and I'm sure we'll be catching up with you.
Hey,
So, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to end it there. So I just want to say thank you so much to anyone who has joined us online. It's such a pleasure for me to have Pinky and Ewura-Esi here today. I've worked with them for almost a year, so it's such a pleasure. And yeah, thank you for joining us.